Hi guys, good evening, and welcome back once again to the EdWord. I'm your host, Eddie, and in tonight's video, I will be doing my episode review for the Season 1 finale of the horror anthology show, Into the Dark. They dropped a new episode earlier this month. I finally just watched it, and it was a doozy. You know, I gotta say, this one made me feel kind of sick, but also kind of satisfied towards the end as well. Now, before I begin, of course, please be warned, this is a spoiler-filled episode review. If you're not caught up on Into the Dark, or at least you haven't seen this, the latest episode and installment, don't keep watching or listening, as I will be going into spoilers and plot details and all that jazz. So, you have been warned. That being said, let's jump right into it. So at first, I couldn't figure out which holiday they were doing, and then it was revealed through the line of dialogue by that creepy, I want to smash his face in pastor, Daughter's Day. So apparently there is such a day as Daughter's Day, which I believe is somewhat similar to Mother's and Father's Day, where daughters are celebrated, except somebody had an interesting idea to take something that should be celebrating women or celebrating daughters and turn it around where it's like a negative thing, where it's like religious fanatics are making their daughters do these purity balls, you know, promising not to have sex before marriage and, you know, shit like that. And this episode did such a good job capturing religious extremism. In this case, you know, I think it was obviously, you know, Christianity, but it also played around. It also did an interesting job with like the horror elements of like a summer camp almost. It was a little bit Friday the 13th-esque almost, where you weren't entirely sure what was going on and like what was happening to these girls, or like if they were being abused by the pastor or by any of their fathers or shit like that. You know, this episode made me feel kind of sick because of like the blatant homophobia and just a fanatic extremism, you know, regarding like the purity of women, or like how like women should save themselves before marriage and whatnot. And it's just a thinly veiled excuse to control women's bodies and tell them what to do, like what women should and should not do with their bodies. It's just another excuse for men to control women. That's all it chalks up to being, honestly. At least that's my opinion on it. I could be wrong, but I feel like that's what it was. You know, this episode had moments where it was hard to watch, not because of the gore or the content necessarily. It was just the message that this fundamentalist pastor and these other crazy fathers were spreading to one another and trying to inflict upon their daughters, like the idea that like sex without marriage is a sin, or masturbation is a sin, or homophobia or like homosexuality was a sin. And of course none of that is true. You know, it's just common sense. None of that is true. These are just the interpretations of like the religious fanatics. But that was the theme throughout this episode. And it just made me kind of sick knowing that obviously this was just a show, but there are people in this world who sincerely, honestly believe all this crap 100%. However, on the bright side, this episode did what I was hoping was going to do, that it took our monster or our demon, this demon called Lilith, this female demon, and made her the hero of the story rather than the villain. Because of course you see a scary looking monster or demon that's terrorizing our lead character, you think, oh, what's going to happen to her? But of course she ultimately ends up becoming the savior by possessing our lead girl Shay and finally killing that fuckhead pastor and those other religious fanatics, you know, while saving all of the daughters from that stupid marriage contract and purity ball thing. You know, so that was very, very satisfying to watch. You know, watching her use basically telekinesis to like control all the men and basically making them do stuff with their bodies that they didn't want to do, which was a nice like metaphor for what the guys were trying to do to these poor girls throughout the whole episode, of trying to control them and control what they could and could not do with their bodies. So I'm glad that the demon ended up saving the day and the girls were at least somewhat liberated in that sense. Like, it instantly set fires to all of those bogus marriage contracts, and the girls were safe to walk away with like Shay / Lilith leading the way. So I enjoyed that quite a bit. But yeah, this episode was great. I mean, it made me feel kind of sick at moments, mostly because of the bogus fundamentalism that was being expressed and represented throughout the episode. But once they killed the pastor and those other prick fathers, and the demon ended up saving the day, it made the whole episode worth watching. Like, I was glad to see it from beginning to end. So I really enjoyed it, as I hope you guys did too. For those of you wondering, Into the Dark was renewed for a second season. You can catch the season 2 premiere, I believe, not this coming Friday, but next Friday, October 4th, on Hulu. It is, of course, another Halloween-themed episode, since it is the beginning of the season, and of course, October is known predominantly for the holiday that is Halloween, so that should be pretty exciting. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed season 1 as much as I did. It had its highs and its lows for me in terms of good episodes. Do you have any favorites? Did you enjoy this one? I want to hear your thoughts and your opinions down below in the comments section. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. And of course, until next time, may the Force be with you.